Hello and welcome back to Born to Rant. I'm Brandon, and this week we are diving into one of my favorite dumb movies, a movie that bridges rock and roll, stoner humor, and coming-of-age tropes to tell a unique story that anyone who ever snuck out of their parents' house to go to a concert can relate to. That's right, today we are diving deep into how 1999's Detroit Rock City came to be, everything that makes it worth your time, and its legacy over 25 years later. Now, Detroit Rock City is a movie I remember wanting to see as soon as I saw the trailer for it, but I'm sure like most people my age, I did not get to check this movie out in theaters. It wasn't until a few years later when it started playing on cable that I finally got a chance to see it. And there's no way I could have been any older than like 10 or 11 the first time I saw this movie, and I absolutely loved it because much like the kids in this movie and my boy Joe Dirt.
I'm a rocker, dude, through and through.
But seriously, I was a kid that was equally obsessed with music and movies, so movies about music have always been something I've really connected with, even the bad ones. Like one of my favorite bad movies of all time is Rockstar starring Mark Wahlberg, but that's a story for a completely different video. So a coming of age movie about 4 kids sneaking out to go see Kiss, I was sold. Even as someone that's not a giant Kiss fan. Now, I don't want the Kiss army coming after me, so I'll just say this. I like Kiss, I don't love Kiss. I never saw them live, but I agree they're probably the best live band of all time. And this has nothing to do with the movie, but as a kid, my dad used to tell me stories about seeing Kiss pre-makeup play in a crappy Cleveland dive bar in the early 70s, and I don't know. That's kind of cool. But I remember being hyped that Detroit Rock City had Edward Furlong from Terminator 2 in it, and thinking that James DeBello was the funniest character ever with Trip, and I just remember this movie fully capturing my attention from beginning to end. It was a stupid stoner comedy, but it was also a coming-of-age movie with just a little bit of heart. Most of the sweet moments in the movie are tied to stupid jokes, but that's kind of what makes the movie so much fun. Like, it's cute that Sam Worthington and Melanie Lynsky meet up in Detroit, tell each other how they feel, and hook up, but they're also doing it in a church confessional and are interrupted by a horny priest. It's sweet, but it's stupid. I'm just saying that I don't think this movie is a masterpiece or anything like that, but I like the way it blends stupidity and heart. Plus, it's also got some solid cinematography. Both director Adam Rifkin and cinematographer John Leonetti do a great job of making this movie feel like it's trapped in the 70s. And once we get to Detroit, the lighting is on another level. But before I get too deep into everything that I love about Detroit Rock City, let's go back in time and learn a bit about how this movie came to be. And really, it all begins in 1978 with Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, which was a fairly big disaster for the band, and after that they swore any other movies based around Kiss would have to have a solid script before going into production. Enter these two guys, Tim Sullivan and Carl V. Dupree. And to be honest, I couldn't really find much information about Dupree or his inspiration for writing the script, though I assume he's got to be a big Kiss fan. And as far as Sullivan goes, he and Gene Simmons actually became friends way back in 1983 after he interviewed Simmons for Fangoria magazine, and Sullivan just so happens to be a massive Kiss fan. In fact, in this behind-the-scenes documentary about the making of the movie, he talks about selling all of his Kiss memorabilia to finance his move out to Los Angeles, where he started working as a producer and found the script for Detroit Rock City, which he pitched to Simmons, who loved the idea. From there, the other 3 original members of Kiss were brought on board, and this would sadly be the last thing that the original lineup of Kiss would ever create together. Because during the making of the movie, as Gene Simmons is wont to do, he slowly started edging out the other members of the band from the creative process, even nixing a scene where the kids were supposed to meet the band because he felt that Peter Criss and Ace Frehely couldn't act. He also convinced Ace Frehely and his daughter that she should have a cameo in the movie, and then he cut her cameo out. And when they went to go see the movie, she was absolutely heartbroken to see that she'd been cut out.
What a dick.
But as much of a control freak as Gene Simmons has a reputation for being, director Adam Rifkin claims to have had a great working relationship with him, and he never felt like he was trying to control him or the movie, so who's to say? As for Adam Rifkin, he actually was able to get the movie because, according to Gene Simmons at least, he was dating one of Detroit Rock City's co-producers, Kathleen Haas, and she proposed him as a possible director to Gene and the rest of the band, and he got the job. And at the time, Rifkin had already directed a couple of other movies like The Dark Backward, but he was primarily primarily known as a screenwriter, having penned the scripts for both Mouse Hunt and Small Soldiers, which is a movie that I also absolutely love and have done a video on. Go check it out if you haven't. And on October 9th, 1998, Detroit Rock City went into production with a budget of $34 million and a cast that included Edward Furlong, Sam Huntington, Giuseppe Andrews, James DeBello, Melanie Lynsky, Natasha Lyonne, and the one and only Lin Shaye. And based on what I saw in the behind the scenes documentary, it looks like making this movie was a really fun time. There's lots of footage of the cast hanging out and cracking jokes. There's even this great footage of Furlong and DeBello play fighting while the members of Kiss are doing a photo shoot. As for behind the scenes stories and fun facts, the biggest one is that most of the Kiss merch in this movie comes from Gene Simmons' personal collection, because of course he has to have at least one of everything that Kiss has ever made. There's also the fact that Kiss actually recreated their stage setup and look from 1978 for the movie. And on August 13th, 1999, Detroit Rock City was released into theaters, where it placed 13th at the box office and made just $2 million against its $34 million budget. And sadly, things would only get worse from there, because it would continue to fall in the box office week after week before quietly exiting theaters with a worldwide gross of just $5.8 million, making it a massive disappointment for New Line, Kiss, and the entire team involved. And before we go any further, if you're enjoying this video so far, I just want to give you a quick reminder that Born to Rant is a completely independent channel. Everything is done by me, no AI and no corporate partners. And if that means anything at all to you, I'd appreciate it if you'd like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, I think it's time for us to dive deep into everything that makes Detroit Rock City still worth your time. And what better place to start with the movie's opening sequence, which anyone who's ever poorly played along to their favorite records with their friends can relate to. I mean, my friend group never really had it figured out enough to even get a full band together, but in high school, it was a very common thing to find us doing on a Friday night. I also love how much care and attention went into the set design for this basement. It's so messy, but everything about it screams 70s burnouts, from the blacklight posters to the empty beer cans and pot growing in an empty fish tank. And I love the way the scene is shot with crash zooms. The whole thing just feels perfect and sets the tone for the movie. I also love the little details of Hawk's guitar having a sparkler tied to its neck, and when Lex yells. But then this is all perfectly interrupted by Jam's mom showing up and Lin Shaye just loudly announcing herself as the best part of the movie, because I mean, come on, it's Lin Shaye. And this is really what kicks our entire movie into gear. Jam is grounded, but they've got tickets to see Kiss tomorrow night. The next day at school really reinforces this, with Jam showing up, revealing he doesn't have the tickets, he had to leave them at home, and then of course his mom shows up to school and burns them right in front of him. And I love the way they shot this scene. And really, I love the entire section of the movie set at school. I just remember being in high school and going to shows after school, and the way that I'd just be buzzing throughout the whole day, looking forward to getting out and driving an hour to the city. There's also this great scene of the kids in shop class just messing around until Hawk makes a radio, and they hear about a Kiss ticket giveaway, and their plan is simple and stupid, but effective. They make Trip ask the teacher to go to the bathroom, and I love the detail of the sign that says no bathroom break, but Trip of course gets an exception when he appears to start pissing his pants. Honestly, kind of a genius move. And I like that the movie cuts ahead to after he's already won the tickets, so we don't see the phone call, which makes the reveal at the radio station a few minutes later that much more effective, but more on that in a minute. Because we've got three great sequences I want to talk about before we even get to Detroit. The first is the boys being chased through the school by Elvis. I just like how it's kind of shot like a Scooby-Doo cartoon. There's also Jam's mom taking him to Catholic boarding school, and here the priest is played by the always hilarious Joe Flaherty, and the boys manage to sneak Jam out of the school by drugging the priest with mushrooms, which is just a hilarious and classic scene for any stoner comedy. And once the boys are on the road, we get their run-in with a group of disco fiends and Trip being an idiot and accidentally throwing a piece of pizza at their windshield. And the confrontation between these groups is one of my favorite moments in the entire movie. From the introduction of these four singing along to David Naughton's Making It, to the main bully rubbing Hawk's face in the pizza, and Natasha Lyonne getting annoyed and walking off. But obviously the best part is when Hawk beats this dude up and the rest of the boys remind bully number 2 that they are severely outnumbered. I mean, the needle drop of Iron Man rocks. and I love Lex taking off his belt with the giant Kiss belt buckle, and of course, the stupid shot of Jam and his drumsticks rocks too. But I love that it culminates with the boys crashing the bully's car, putting Kiss makeup on them, and leaving them tied up on the side of the road. And the best part is that the boys face absolutely zero consequences for this stunt. Maybe not the best beat from a screenwriting perspective, but it is kind of satisfying that our heroes get the upper hand, overplay it, and then never suffer the consequences. I also love the beat of them picking up Natasha Lyonne on the side of the road and getting her high as shit as they roll into Detroit. She also has my favorite meta joke in the movie.
I wouldn't be surprised if Kiss did a disco song someday.
Because Kiss would release a disco album less than a year after this movie takes place, called Dynasty. And once we're in Detroit, this movie really kicks into gear. I mean, the sequence of them entering the city alone is just awesome. This must have required hundreds of extras to pull off, and it just looks cool as hell. But sadly, the boys are knocked down once again when it's revealed that Tripp hung up before giving his information to the radio station, meaning they don't have tickets for the concert they just drove several hours to see. And of course, once they get out front, they see that Lex's mom's car has also been stolen. So from here, it's every man for himself, and the movie splits the four leads up, and we go on four mostly satisfying adventures. I think that Lex's is just a little undercooked. He tries to sneak into the venue through the fence and pretends to be a crew member, and then it's mostly just a montage of him hiding in various silly spots backstage until he's finally caught. He does make friends with a pack of street dogs though, and he stumbles upon the car and the Stella and saves the day. See, it's fun, but a little undercooked. Tripp, on the other hand, has himself a pretty eventful evening, threatening to beat up this little kid in Ace Frehely makeup, which is just one of the best sequences of the entire movie. Like, this kid's older brother's name is Chongo, the perfect name for this character, and I love the way that this little kid just fully bullies Tripp and robs him. We also get Tripp going to rob this convenience store, only to end up being beat by another robber, so instead Tripp stops the robbery, which is just another fun little standoff sequence. But of course, the thing here is that Tripp stood up for himself and did the right thing for the first time in his life, and it led to him making out with this cashier girl and her giving him money. Now, he does immediately have to turn that money over to the kid and Chongo, and I love their reaction to him only having $150 when they said they wanted 200.
Tisk, tisk, tisk. I really wanted things to work out for you, my Weasley dim-witted friend.
And Hawk's adventure is also insane, with the scalper having a ticket for sale, but Hawk not having the money. He suggests that Hawk enter the amateur male strip contest happening next door.
Ooh, how convenient!
But everything about this sequence is insane, from his fake ID to the bartender, and of course Hawk's reaction to drinking whiskey for the first time. Although I kind of find it hard to believe that this character with a fake ID has never tried whiskey before. But once it's time for Hawk to strip, they put on Love Gun, and we get this insane gag of him throwing up into a beer pitcher. And his stripping scene is very funny, even if it's a little gross. Anyway, afterward, he gets picked up by this older lady who offers to pay him for his company, and their scene together is another cute but incredibly stupid moment. Like, Furlong delivers this line with so much heart.
Oh no, you know what? Strange it may seem, I think I can take the money. It's just cheap and all experience.
But again, the setting is absolutely ridiculous. And finally, there's Jam, who, after leaving his friends, immediately runs into his mom, who's of course protesting the Kiss concert, and she drags him to a nearby church to confess. And as she drags him there, Melanie Lynsky's Beth happens to see him and runs to the church to confess her love. Also, apparently the first church they booked for this scene backed out after reading the script and seeing it had two kids having sex in a confessional booth, but the second church was just cool with it, I guess. Anyway, I love the way that Lin Shaye pawns over the priest, and how the priest is only interested in hearing horny confessions, and Beth sneaking into the booth again leads to some genuinely sweet moments, but the setting is so over the top. Like, this movie almost plays as a heightened version of Dazed and Confused now that I think about it. It takes place on a single day and has a lot of coming of age monologues, but instead of Texas, we're in this insane over the top world of Detroit. Actually, apparently Richard Linklater was offered to direct this movie but turned it down, and I would 100% kill to see a version of this movie directed by Linklater. After the church, we get what is definitely Jam's best moment in the movie, with him standing up to his mom and announcing to a group of strangers that he just lost his virginity and that he wants his drumsticks back. And with that, it's finally time for our heroes to reconvene and realize not a single one of them managed to snag tickets. So they go with the dumbest plan ever and decide to beat the shit out of each other and tell the security guards that someone robbed them and stole their tickets. And I love how this is also shot in a really fun and bonkers way. I especially love the over-the-top blood spitting, and much to their surprise, this stupid plan actually works, all because the kid and Chongo happen to be walking in at the same time, and Tripp remembers that they have his wallet. And with that, the boys finally get to see Kiss, and this performance does fully kick ass. I especially love this insane rig that they made to shoot from Gene's tongue's point of view, and the movie ends with Jam catching Peter Criss's drumstick. So, over 25 years later, what is the legacy of Detroit Rock City? Well, it's by no means some undiscovered masterpiece, but I think those of us that saw it in the early 2000s remember it fondly. But I think it's just a movie that, like I said at the beginning of the video, anyone who ever snuck out of their parents' house to go to a concert or went to a show after school, it's just undeniably relatable. My friends and I were doing a lot of the same stupid shit at the same age, and even though it failed at the box office, Detroit Rock City would go on to find a second life both on the home video market and on cable. Like I said, the first time I ever saw this movie was on cable, and honestly, I think a big part of the reason that this movie failed is that it was rated R. And I get it, without all of the cursing, pot smoking, and nudity, it wouldn't be the same movie. That being said, the target audience of this movie was clearly twofold: Kiss fans who could relate to the nostalgia of seeing the band in the 70s, and teenage boys who wanted to see a silly stoner comedy. And the thing about those audiences is that only half of them were old enough to buy a ticket to see the movie in theaters. As for the cast, they've all gone off to have varying degrees of success. Obviously, Melanie Lynsky and Natasha Lyonne have both been having big career spikes over the last decade. Furlong, Andrews, and DeBello would all have smaller parts in indie movies over the years, but none of them really found much success. Andrews hasn't even acted in almost a decade at this point. And Sam Huntington would go on to have a pretty successful next decade with lead roles in movies like Not Another Teen Movie and Fanboys. And he had a lead role in the show Being Human, but I'm largely unfamiliar with his career after that. As for the legacy of Kiss, like I said, this is the last time the original lineup of the band would ever reunite in any real way, and sadly we lost Ace Frehely just last year. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you for watching, and a special thank you to my supporters on Patreon who keep this channel running. Patrons get early ad-free access to videos, access to an exclusive Discord server, and they get to help me decide what topics to cover on the channel. There's a link in the description if you'd like to check it out. Born to Rant is a completely independent channel, and we release new videos covering all of your favorite movies every Thursday at 7 a.m. Pacific time. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.